Hey everybody, welcome to more Political Excess. Today we've got to cover Donald Trump has announced he is running for president again in 2024. I've got some news articles I'll scroll through and we can discuss what this might or might not mean for that upcoming election. Well, for one, coming off the midterms, Trump and his candidates mostly took a beating. There's investigations involving Trump, and he's been out of office now for a couple of years. He'll be out a couple more by the time the election rolls around. Those are all the things going against Trump, and those are some serious factors. Typically, that might sound like the candidate has no chance, but as with Donald Trump, you can really never count him out. Time and time again, people have said he stands no chance, and he's gotten it done time and time again, except for 2020, where he very nearly lost across some very small margins in some swing states. The establishment is completely against him. So with all those things in mind, does he actually stand a chance going into 2024? Well, the primary and the general, those are two different discussions. In the primary, outside of him and Ron DeSantis, there is a wide gap between who's left on the bench. If it's not one of those two, then it's really anybody's game, but it does boil down pretty much to Trump or DeSantis. Now, I can't possibly begin to predict how it would actually go. Right now, DeSantis seems like a very slight favorite. However, once the primaries actually rolled around and campaigning started to begin, I could see Trump coalescing support again and running away with it. Trump just has the experience and the charisma that I think no one else really has. Maybe he's slowed just a little bit, given that he's in his mid to late 70s, but Trump has proven he can actually win a general election. And I think Trump does need DeSantis and any support that he has that Trump doesn't have. And I think DeSantis needs Trump and all the support he doesn't have. If they're going to win in a general election, they're going to need all the crossover support they can get. And I do think there's a fair amount of crossover support as it is. Now, if the establishment is backing Ron DeSantis, that might make some people hesitant. And I do think that is a reason to be concerned. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I think the establishment on both sides will absolutely do whatever it takes to smear and take down anyone that tries to go after them. We remember Bernie Sanders. The Democrats would do anything to stop him from winning. They will smear him. They'll dig up any old stories. They'll smear his supporters. Most of the media was against him, but he had the support of a lot of the people. A lot of the populist left was in favor of Bernie Sanders. Just like on the right, the smears and the attacks on Donald Trump are far greater than Bernie Sanders, and Trump pushes back far better than anybody could. But with the near unanimous negative coverage and all kinds of weird smears and lies, mischaracterizations, plus all the scandals, some of them true, some of them half true, some of them manufactured, that is a lot to really overcome. And it is a little bit different this time. When Trump won in 2016, it was pretty much the same story, but people didn't take him seriously. The polls were way off in many states, especially in the Rust Belt. But now with mail-in balloting, that's going to help the Democrats, unless the Republicans are able to put something together to really get their vote out and overcome that. And as for DeSantis, he does seem to be the more palatable choice. Similar to Glenn Youngkin, where he's able to get a lot of that Trump base and not be as repulsive in some of the suburban purple areas. And obviously he just won a landslide re-election in Florida. How much could that translate into national politics? It's a great question, and it's hard to say. If there was just DeSantis running and no Trump, then I think DeSantis would probably win that very easily. And who knows how he would govern. Would he try to govern as an outsider? Or would he start making concessions? But I do think with DeSantis just winning re-election, I think it would be kind of cheesy if he runs for president just barely into his second term. If he was already halfway through, I can see it, but he hasn't even started his second term yet. So I think he should probably have a little bit more allegiance to Florida at this point. And with Trump, this is going to be his last race no matter what. He's already getting old, but remarkably is younger than Joe Biden. And what about that general election? While Trump does have much more charisma than Joe Biden, he's far more entertaining. Now, that could be a pro, that could be a con, but I don't know how well he would do. At this point, I think Biden would win, but 2 years is a very, very long time in politics. Anything can happen, anything could shift, but it does seem like, on a glance, most people, or at least enough people, have had their fill of Donald Trump and whatever antics may come along with him. One thing I would throw out there is, I think a lot of people may support Donald Trump, but they might think, for the good of the country or to increase their chances of winning the general election, he should not run or he should not be the nominee. I think that's a fair point. Although you could say the same thing back in 2016, and he proved everybody wrong. At this point, he's battle-tested. He knows everything that they're going to throw at him. Very little of it is going to stick. He's going to have to deal with tons of criticisms, tons of politicians coming out and saying, do not vote for this guy. The establishment is going to be against him. Celebrities, corporations, all the big tech stuff, deciding what is allowed to be covered, what's not allowed to be covered. That's all going to play into it. And Trump really only has to flip a few states in order to win a general election. He did do very well in the Rust Belt, and those voters did not come out in the midterms. Is that just because Trump wasn't on the ballot and they would enthusiastically come out if he was? I don't know. But one thing about that I will say is it's kind of concerning that you could only win if this guy is on the ballot. What about after Trump? Then you're just never going to win again? And with Trump on the ballot, he's definitely going to have voters be animated to come out and vote against him. Would that outweigh any of the support he would get in the blue-collar, rural, red counties? It's again hard to say. The national issues at the time, they're going to be a factor. The economy is typically a factor, although in this last midterms, the economy is pretty bad, and it did not really hurt the Democrats much. So in that regard, the economy is not as important as it might seem. There's a lot of unknowns, and one thing that's likely is it's all going to be complete chaos. Definitely in the general election. The primary, there's a chance that's chaos. There's a chance it goes smoothly and Trump just cruises to nomination. Right now, if we quickly switch over to predict it, we could see that Ron DeSantis is at 44 cents favored to win nomination. Donald Trump is at 35 cents. So one final thought on Trump jumping back into this race. I understand there's a lot of people that think he is the absolute worst. Some of the criticisms are perfectly legitimate. Some of them are completely irrational. And I think the far more intellectual way to go about it is analyze what he advocates for on an individual issue and specific policy changes. Just saying Trump is an authoritarian fascist, or on the other side that Bernie Sanders is a socialist or communist, that doesn't explain anything. I would like a little bit more nuance, because maybe you don't like the person, but you do agree with 20 or 30% of what they stand for. Even people you don't like, usually you're hard-pressed to disagree with them on every issue. But I think that's the problem. Somebody that's been painted so negatively like Trump, people don't want to even agree with him on anything, and it does really become irrational. So we'll see what Trump and his platform is, if he talks more about the 2020 election, if he tones down the name-calling. We'll see who he might pick for a running mate. Probably next year, that's when we're going to start to see things heat up. We're going to see a lot of candidates jump into the race. 99% of them are going to have no chance. I do think there's a path for Trump to win it. It's probably a narrow path, but then again, that is similar to what I thought back in 2016. The general election is going to be a scary time because they're going to pull out all the stops to stop Trump from winning if he is the nominee. There's going to be all kinds of court cases, weird kinds of stories that come out, corporations going to bat to stop him from winning. It's not going to be a fun time whatsoever. I think the American people might be fatigued from that, and that's why I think Trump really might not stand much of a chance in a general election at this point. But as usual, I am definitely open to being proven wrong. So anyway, that is the news about Donald Trump announcing he is running for president again. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this news? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you neutral? Let me know down below, and if you enjoy this channel, definitely like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.